U.S. officials believe they have killed one of the most wanted men in the world. Officials say U.S. forces believe they have killed one of ISIS's top leaders.
Authorities say he was well known in Iraq and Syria and that his death would hamper ISIS operations in the Middle East.
We are systematically eliminating ISIL's cabinet. Indeed, the U.S. military killed several key ISIL terrorists this week, including, we believe, Haji Imam, who was an ISIL leader, senior leader, serving as a finance minister, and who also is responsible for some external affairs and plots. He was a well-known terrorist within ISIL's ranks, dating back to its earliest iteration as al-Qaeda in Iraq.
National security correspondent David Martin is with us from the Pentagon. David, thank you for joining us. If, and I guess it's a big if this man is indeed dead, how will this affect efforts to take out ISIS?
Well, you heard Secretary of Defense Carter describe him as the finance minister. So if he was killed, this would be the second time the U.S. military has killed the ISIS finance minister. They conducted a raid into Syria last summer in which they killed a man named Abu Sayyaf, who at the time was described as the finance minister. And now they believe they have killed Haji Imam, who is also described as the finance minister. If you kill the finance minister, that obviously impacts their ability to move money around and to pay their fighters and to fund operations. And it goes hand in hand with these strikes, these airstrikes that the U.S. military has been conducting, where they attack storage sites where ISIS has piled up tens of millions of dollars in cash. And they blow all of that cash to smithereens. And that is their sort of national bank, and you're taking away their ability to pay their fighters. And there are reports that the amount of money that fighters are being paid has now been cut in half. But you don't end their ability to recruit and pay fighters. You simply decrease it.
Well, I think along those lines, you're doing a good job describing who this person was. But why exactly is he considered a top ISIS leader if they can now go ahead and just kind of take somebody else and put him in place of this individual?
Well, for one thing, he goes back to the roots of ISIS, which is al-Qaeda in Iraq. That's the terrorist organization that the U.S. was fighting in Iraq after the invasion. And he has sort of transitioned from that group, which was basically wiped out by American forces during the war in Iraq, and he is now moved over to ISIS. So this means he's a very experienced leader, and he is also one of their inspirational leaders. So by taking him away, you take away a major player in ISIS. And if you look at the rewards that are offered for the killing or capture of top ISIS leaders, the leader of ISIS, al-Baghdadi, has a $10 million bounty on his head, and this man had a $7 million bounty on his head, the second highest bounty being offered for members of ISIS. So the U.S. Considered him as potentially the second most important person in this organization.
David, that brings up a big debate about whether taking out top ISIS leaders in Syria and Iraq, will it actually hinder attacks like Brussels and Paris, or do just the opposite and inspire more? What are your sources telling you?
Well, I think the word that Carter used today was hamper. It throws sand in the gears of their ability to run their operation. And whether or not it creates more terrorists, this was an attack on a bunch of fighters, and I doubt that there was any collateral damage here. What happens with drone strikes that kill civilians, that's where you create lasting enemies. But this was a fighter, and he was killed on the battlefield in what appears to have been an attempt to capture him, which they were not able to pull off and had to kill him instead.
All right, David Martin for us. Thank you so much.
Sure thing.